welcome to another little talk of finding kindness in spaces and places as part of the Leeds Kindness, Wellbeing and Compassion Week. I'm joined here by the owner of Flamingo's Coffee House, James, who's here to talk about the space that he has in Leeds. So I'd like James to just introduce himself and the coffee shop.
Flamingos is Leeds' only late night LGBT plus friendly coffee house. We're open 7 days a week. Well, I say late night. Imagine COVID wasn't here and would be late night. We're not quite so late at the moment, but we're late night. The whole purpose of this is to be a safe space for the LGBT plus community, to come here to use as a community hub, to book out for evening events, and to generally use the space, which is something which we haven't really had in the city before, and a nice and relaxing environment. It's as simple as that.
Wonderful. So have you got any social media handles where people can find you? Twitter?
Yeah, we certainly have. We're on all the big main ones. So Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. It's at Flamingos Leeds. That's where you'll find us. You'll find lots of updates about the charity work we're doing, about the different events we might have going, different tasty treats we might be selling, all those different things, all available on social media.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm going to move on to the questions now, and I'd just like to ask, with this being a festival of kindness, what does kindness and compassion mean within your space, and why is it so important to you guys at Flamingos?
I think kindness and compassion to us is all about community and looking after each other. We have lots of the community come here, whether they're part of the LGBT plus community or not. Everyone's welcome, and we have lots of that. As I said earlier, we have lots of the LGBT organisations and societies come here to meet from different groups ranging from trans Leeds. We have different older LGBT groups coming in. We've had eco groups coming in. All sorts of different groups come here to this space. It's about looking after your staff. It's about, being eco-friendly, and about other small businesses working together. So just to go into that in a bit more detail, I guess. None of the plastic packaging here, or none of the packaging, I should say, has plastic in it. It's all biodegradable. It costs us more to do that, considerably more than if we were to buy other plastic. But for us, it's important. It's about being kind to the planet, about keeping sustainable, and helping make the right choices to look after our planet, so that that's really, really important to us. Working with small businesses, we could work with big chain type places, for example, for our suppliers and different things. But again, it's about supporting local. The name of the owner, what the money's going to. It's supporting the local traders. That's really important to us. And again, about looking after your staff. We're aspiring to pay the living wage here at Flamingos, the real living wage. I'm not on about the phony one that the government has introduced, which I suppose is going quite quick, but we're on about the real one as set out by the Living Wage Foundation. And that's quite a big ask for us to do that, and we said we'd do it by the end of 2020, and we've slowly been increasing the wage all year, even through this pandemic. We've been doing that, and we're on track to do that as well. So I guess that's what kindness is about, working with the community, working with individuals, not big chains, and looking after the people around you, which includes your staff. To me, that's what kindness is.
Yeah, it's a really great explanation of kindness and what it can mean within a business, and I totally agree about keeping traders and everything close within the community, because you're connecting and you're sharing with the people that you're actually in the city with and living it day by day. So do you, I think we've just touched upon it then, but do you work with any specific charities or traders that you would like to highlight and share with us today?
There are so many different organisations that we have worked with, and I say have worked with. Obviously, because of COVID now, a lot of the stuff isn't really happening. So, for example, we used to support, and we still do support, and we will support after COVID's passed and when it's safer for these organisations to continue their work. But, organisations we have worked with include, for example, Simon on the Streets. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they help vulnerable people who are on the streets. So often people who found themselves in hard times, some people who may have been quite recently found themselves in hard times, many who found their problems entrenched, street drug users, Lots of people who genuinely need a lot of help that are slipping through the net. So we've supported them a lot with fundraising, and we've provided them, I think it was every Tuesday night, we used to do all the hot drinks for them. And, you know, it's kind of, I think kindness is about acknowledging that you can't change the whole world, but if everyone does their part, then the world will be a much nicer place. So we make their drinks once a week. Yeah, that's not going to change what their charity does. It's not going to make such a massive difference to their organisation. But if all little businesses in Leeds did, you know, one night they did the soup, one time, you know, they might have done the drinks, another time they might offer the venue for free for the evening for them to use as a base, might have a fundraiser for them, those kind of things. It would just make such a massive difference. So combined, all those little things make a huge difference. So Simon on the Streets is one example. Another one is the Angels of Freedom, for example. So they are, have you heard of them? I don't know.
I have not, no.
Okay, so they go out usually every Friday evening. They're out on the lower Brigates in the Freedom Quarter, hence Angels of Freedom. So you've probably heard of street angels. It's what they do. They go out onto the streets. They, you know, give guidance to people, offer them signposting, you know, give out anti-spiking devices, and just out there on the streets that help talk to people and be a reassuring presence, I guess. You know, they're not the police or ambulance service or anything like that, but they've got you back, and they're there, and the visible presence, and they're doing good work in the community, in the LGBT community especially. Obviously, that's they're trying to, the part of the community they're trying to serve, I guess, and people who go to the LGBT quarter in Leeds. So we support them. We've done fundraising for them. Again, they might pop in on a Friday, they might get a few hot drinks if it's a bit cold out there. So they're an organisation we support. But there are genuinely so many. I mean, I try and think about some of the people who might watch this might know that we have a rainbow cake. So it is what it is. It's a rainbow cake. And every month, part of the proceeds from the sale of that cake go to a local, usually LGBT plus organisation or charity in the Leeds area. So this month, for example, it's helping to pay for the transition surgery for some queer, trans and intersex people of colour. So that's something that a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford, and it can cost over £10,000. So again, it's just a little bit that we're doing. We have done it for Trans Leeds. We've had as an organisation we've supported MESMAC, which is a local LGBT sexual health charity. We have done just so many different charities we've done it for, and I guess there's too many to mention, but yeah, it's all over our social media when we support them, because that's what we do. Sorry, a bit of a rambling response perhaps there, I don't know.
Not at all. It's so great to hear that there is so many organisations that you've helped and that are also helping vulnerable communities to be able to, you know, like you say, receive that kind of visible presence and have that human contact with someone, which is so important.
I think that's the main thing to say is that it's not about trying to you individually change the world as a whole. It's those small little acts that make a difference. We might only make a couple of £100 for, you know, our rainbow cake every month for charity, but for some grassroots organisations, that's massive. And, you know, as I say, one small act at a time, cumulatively, can make a massive difference. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I agree, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with this week and with this festival, is to just showcase how many little acts of kindness that there are and how much of a difference it makes when you can see the overall picture, and how important it is as well, you know. Yeah Amazing, really, really amazing to hear. So obviously with the pandemic, how do you see your space evolving, you know, especially with the current movements there are all around the world? What is the future for you guys? Do you know what? I'm really sorry. I keep saying you guys, and I really should stop. It's just one of my like generic things. That
I was going to pull you up about pronouns, but I thought I wouldn't embarrass you on the camera. But yeah,
I'm really sorry. It's literally just something that I say all the time. The
thing to do is, and this is good for the audience as well, we're all human. We all slip up. We all get it wrong. The best thing to do is literally if you think you've accidentally misgendered somebody, the best or said something wrong, the best thing to do is go, I'm sorry, and then say. So what are your pronouns? Sorry.
She.
So
Me.
let's just say that I called you. Let's say that I misgendered you right now and called you he. Then all I would do to correct that is I would go, I'm sorry. I'd just literally say I'm sorry and then correct it straight away. Don't make a big fuss, anything like that. And then if you make a fuss of it, it can upset the other person. So just literally correct yourself and say, oh, I'm sorry, bang, correct yourself, done. That's it. That's the best thing to do. And then it doesn't make a big deal out of it to the other person. But anyway, there we go. I hope I wasn't being patronising there. I was more explaining it for the purpose of people watching now who might be a bit unsure.
Yeah, I agree, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to explain that to me as well, for anyone who is going to watch this video who does slip up and feels that, how do I react in that situation? So thank you.
No worries.
So how do you see your space evolving, in the wake of the pandemic and current movements around the world? How do you envision the space going forward?
I mean, I guess that's the big question for the hospitality sector as a whole, and I guess for all industries. What's going to happen in the future? And if I'm being honest with you, I don't think anyone will know at all. No one knows. But I think the one thing we can be sure of is that people will always want to meet their friends. People will always be looking for an experience that's not at home. People will always be looking to go out. And so that's the thing that we have to focus on as an industry and generally. And, remember that you can't beat face-to-face. You can't beat it. We all crave social attention. And we're never going to ever not have that as long as we're all here. So I think it's all about sort of making your venue a destination and continuing to provide what people want. So for us, I think at Flamingos, it will just be more of the same, more of helping the community, more of being open and accessible, and continuing being a safe space. Obviously, at the minute, we're having to adapt. So we used to be open late night and we used to be open earlier in the mornings. We've had to shave off hours on both ends of the opening time. So we open 2 hours later and close 3 hours earlier because there isn't the demand. And unfortunately, we don't have a bottomless pit of money. So we do have to have a reality check and just sort of think, well, actually, we can't open late nights. And for us, late nights never really made us lots of money. But that wasn't the point of opening late night. The point of it was being the community space. And the whole reasoning was that in the daytime, we'd be busy-ish. And then that kind of subsidised the evenings when the community comes to use the space. And sometimes we'll have the place will be packed out and we'll have 30, 40 people in and we'll make hundreds of pounds in the till. But often is the case, we'll have a group of 6 or 7 in for that meet-up for them. It makes a massive, big difference to them. It might be what they've been looking forward to. It might be a support group of some kind. And we might take 15, 20 quid in the till for the whole evening. But that doesn't matter because the daytime subsidise it. And so because the daytimes now aren't busy, because the office workers aren't here, we can't afford to do that. And we've just had to look at the realities of our financial position. So to answer it, I guess, we're shortening the opening hours now. We're hoping to go back to a normal because we know what we did provide was a service that was really needed by the community. And we're hoping to get back to that normal as soon as it's safe to do so. But I guess if there are any organisations that are looking or watching this tonight, we have said that the space can still be booked in an evening if you still want it, providing that it's COVID secure and within the current government guidelines, which they are changing quite a lot. So, for example, we've got, I think it's Leeds Disabled People's Organisation are meeting here now every Tuesday evening. They booked that in. We've done a COVID secure risk assessment. It is possible to do it, much reduced numbers and a lot of safety things in place. But it's about adapting and being there for the community. And we'll keep doing that as long as we're still here.
Yeah. It's really great to hear, and it's really great to see working in the industry as long as I have. I started in the industry when I was 14. I'm 28 now, so I've been there a long time. It really felt like it was going to hit really hard at the beginning of this, so it is so incredible to see that so many independents have still been able to make it through to the other side and can still commit to what they wanted to do with their space in the wake of this. So it's good to hear.
I mean, I think it's really important to say, though, that a lot of people now are sort of like, oh, you're open, it's all going to be okay and fine. Well, actually, that isn't the case. And I, obviously, as an independent business owner, as I said, small businesses locally, we work together, we talk, try and support each other. A lot of small businesses in the area are a massive proportion of their usual takings down, massive proportion. And government support now is starting to come to an end. We've got furlough coming to an end. We've had the Eat Out to Help Out that's finished. We've got a temporary tax cuts. We've had grants, and I can't knock it. The support's been fantastic for hospitality, but it's starting to come to an end, but those revenues aren't going back up. So we've also got the fact that we're going into winter. The government are warning us that there's going to be possibly another COVID wave. The sounds that government's making, there's not going to be any more support. So I think it's important to recognise that for a lot of small businesses, they've used up all their reserves, and they're on life support, being supported by government aid, which is coming to an end. So it's really important that everyone here who can goes to support independent coffee shops and support your independent businesses. Even if you don't like Flamingos or one of the others, go and support a different shop. Go and support Lane's. Go and support Mrs. Apple's. Go and support whatever it is.
It does sound extremely worrying. So yeah, everyone who is watching, if there is a place that you love and you want it to survive, now is the time to go and spend that money there and ensure that those places are still here in a year.
Well, we're not asking for charity, I should say that. You know, we are businesses at the end of the day, yeah. And I make no bones about it. My shop is a business, but we are trying to do business in a kind way. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to buy something in a chain, let's say you might have been gone to go to Pret or to Costa's or to Starbucks on the way, why don't you just try and have a look to see if you can find if there's a local independent? If you're going to get a sandwich, try not to go to Tesco's, maybe go to a local deli. You know, if you're going to think about getting yourself a new T-shirt for whatever reason, try and see if you can go to maybe a local independent vintage shop or whatever else. There's loads of places that you can go to support.
Thank you for that.
That's all right.
You can create a long-lasting change in making Leeds a kind of space to live.
So in terms of how we can make Leeds a better space to live, I think it's all about focusing on people. It's all about putting people before profit. So as I've said before I even set up, and I still say it now unashamedly, yes, we are a business, but we want to be socially minded and we want to support the community. Yes, I need to make a profit because I need to pay my bills at home. You know, I work really hard and you know, I should be able to take a bit of money out of the business, but it's about putting people before profit. So, you know, it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, to me, it doesn't cost that much more to pay people the real living wage, but actually it makes a massive difference to the quality of life of the people that are here. Making sure they can afford what they need to pay, and they work hard here. Anyone who is watching this video will know that working in the hospitality industry, it isn't a walk in the park. It's hard work. You're on your feet. It's hot. It's sweaty. You've got sometimes grumpy people coming in, moaning about things. You're always running about. You're always getting grubby cleaning things. It's hard graft, and and to get something, I think I'm trying to think the exact figures now, but I think if it between 18 and 21. I think the government's living wages are between £5 and £6. I mean, that's outrageous. I just don't think it's fair that people should be paid that. So all of my staff here, for example, I don't care how old you are, you all get the same rate of pay for the same job. You're all going to be slowly working towards the real living wage. There's no ifs or buts on that. And I think that's really important. We need to be kind to each other. Or profit, we have to understand that people have personal circumstances that make life not so easy. So I can think of working for different places where I've previously had medical conditions, and they've been really understanding. I don't know what's wrong. They've not been understanding of my situation, and it doesn't help. So I try and be flexible with my staff. And yeah, I don't always get everything right. And at the start, when I first opened Flamingos, I found it a bit difficult to try and get things right. But you learn from your mistakes, and that's really important. So to answer it, put people before profit, and support local. That's the really important thing for me.
Yeah. It's true that what you were talking about with the wage. Why would anyone who's at the age of 20 who's doing the exact same job as someone at the age of 26 be paid that much less than them when they're doing exactly the same work? Just because they're of a different age bracket doesn't make them any less valuable as a member of that team. So I think that's a really important point to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any acts of kindness that you'd like to introduce to the city or into your space but have been unable to due to money or legislation or the COVID pandemic? Is there anything that you've really been wanting to do that you'd like to share but you've been unable to?
I mean, something that it was on my list of things that I'd like to do in an ideal world. One of them would be that I would be able to pay my staff to go out into the community and do some volunteering and pay for it, or to help an organisation that we support. But I mean, obviously, at the moment, we are somewhat fighting to survive. I mean, I say fighting to survive. We're breaking even now and doing a little bit better than that. But I just don't know what's coming around the corner. So it's kind of every spare penny we've got at the minute, we've got to be very careful how we spend it.
Thank you. And so I'd just like to, as this event is being aired on Suicide Prevention Day today, I would just like to add, if you have anything to add to the conversation, anything and everything I feel is important in destigmatizing the conversation that surrounds mental health. It is such a broad area and subject and topic, but I through mental health training have been made aware of the mental health not disproportionate, but the higher rates within the LGBT community, which is worrying. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the personal struggles that a lot of people in the LGBT community have had to deal with, so often people have had to deal with conflicts in terms of what they may have been brought up to be and what society says they have to be. You know, society says, for me, for example, as a man, I should get to 16, I should go and do my A-levels, I should go to university, I should get a good job, I should find a lovely wife who should stay home and look after the children, and we should have lots of children, and we should have a big house, and we should live happily ever after with a dog. And kind of, that's what society says we all do. You watch all the films, that's all the stuff that they tell us that we have to be, have to do, you know, and so you're brought up into that. So if you are brought up and you realise that you might have feelings to someone of the same gender as you, for example, or that you may believe that you're a trans person, that's a real big internal battle that you might have to deal with. For some people, it's easy. For some people, it's a massive challenge. And for some people, sadly, it's too much of a challenge. And they do end up taking their own life or obviously harming themselves. And obviously, it's really, really hard. And that's one of the reasons why in the LGBT community, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why, that I think we do have such an issue with mental health and mental illness in the community. But I guess talking more broadly, as employers, it's up to us to really understand and be compassionate and kind to each other, and understand that we've all got our own demons, we've all got our own mental health concerns. And I think everyone, to some extent, has a bad day. You know, everyone can have a bad day. And even just that, it's important to understand people have bad days, right the way to obviously having severe mental health crises. It's about being kind to each other and understanding and not being rigid. You know, I've had my own fights. I've tried to take my own life. I've been on antidepressants in the past. I've had very long times off work before coming to Flamingos. But I guess for me, I was in a high-flying civil service type job, and it just took the sort of big mental health crisis that I had to actually really assess that actually money and job and prestige isn't everything. And I think we all have to remember that we don't live to work. It's the other way around. We work in order to live. And if doing your job enhances your life and makes it better, all the better. But if it doesn't, look for something else and look for happiness and not for material goods. That's what I'd really impress on people, because I had it all. I had a really good wage. I'll never ever get that. It was over 40,000 a year. I'll never ever be on that money again, ever. I can't foresee that. I had a good job. I had a nice apartment. Admittedly, it was rented, but still. But I wasn't happy, and so now I run this space, which obviously, for what the customers tell me, gives a lot of happiness and support to other people. It does make me a wage. I'm never going to be a millionaire. I'm always going to have to work bloody hard. But it's about knowing that what I'm doing is worthwhile, knowing that the people I work here are as happy as I can make them. I mean, obviously, there will be disagreements with staff from time to time, but you can't be perfect. And it's about that. So you work to live and not the other way around. So look after your mental health, and everyone, we've all got a responsibility to check in on each other and be understanding.
I'd like to thank you for sharing your own personal story and for sharing that with anyone who is watching, because it is important to just talk about these things. It's so rife, suicide rates are climbing and rising, and I can't see, unfortunately, numbers declining throughout this situation. This enforced kind of confinement has played on my mental health, just definitely throughout the situation. So I know it's definitely played on many other people's minds. So it's important for us to just keep talking, and there will be advice lines and any support if anyone does need to reach out or contact anyone. I will make sure that there is information available at the end of this video. So I'd like to thank you for joining me today and having this conversation with me and just educating me a little bit as well. So thank you for joining us at the Leeds Wellbeing and Compassion Week, and hopefully everyone watching this will go seek you guys out and enjoy a coffee and donate some money through Rainbow Cakes.
That's like, even if it isn't us, go somewhere independent. Support your independence is really important.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Hi everyone, welcome to another short talk of finding kindness in places and spaces. I am joined here by Jay at Happy Yak. He is going to talk to us about his space in Leeds, so I'll allow him to introduce himself and the Happy Yak.
Hi everybody, my name is Jay. I'm the cafe manager here at the Happy Yak Cafe. We're located inside Jamyang Buddhist Centre in Holbeck in Leeds. We've been open for about a year and a half, and due to the COVID situation, sadly, we're on temporary closed down, but looking to open again very shortly, fingers crossed. We were originally based in the city centre with no access to a social space, sort of teas and coffees, that sort of thing. So when we moved to Holbeck, we thought it would be an amazing opportunity to create a safe space where our visitors, students and the local community can come, have a cup of tea, have a good old happy yak and have some really healthy food, trying to do good for the environment, be surrounded by positive people, positive conversations, and get to know each other a little bit more. So the Happy Yak can be found on Facebook and social media at Happy Yak Cafe. So check us out, come along, come for a cup of tea, coffee, and have a chat, meet the locals.
Sounds great. So I'm going to move on to a couple of questions now that I'd like to ask you about your space. As it is a week of kindness and compassion, I'd like to know what that means within your space and how do you try to work towards it and introduce it?
Okay, so our space here is quite unique in Holbeck. As you know, Holbeck is quite run down and there are not a lot of safe spaces for individuals. So our cafe is open to the students as well as the general public. and we find that people come in, have a really positive experience, feel safe and comforted. And the conversations that happen within our building, because it's a Buddhist building, a lot of our communication is around kindness to others and compassion. I'm a practicing Buddhist, and I also hold some of the Buddhist lay vows. So my emphasis for this cafe is to share positivity, comfort, and offer kindness wherever I can, whether that's by eating healthy foods, being vegetarian or vegan options to consider the kindness and compassion towards animals, offering an ear for conversations if people are having bad days, and also making the space welcoming as well to everybody. So I don't play music here, I play birdsong, and it transforms the environment into somewhere very open, spacious, gentle, and kind.
That's really interesting to hear that that's what you choose to play throughout the day, that it's not a music selection of even meditative songs of some sort, that you choose to play nature sounds. I really like that. That's cool.
Well, down here in the cafe, we'd like to be very inviting and more open, and not so much Buddhist, but open and secular. So people can come in and relax, and have the opportunity to ask questions if they so wish. But the questions and conversations here are always about caring for others, how our days have been, and what we're doing to help support the local environment from our eco dharma, and also with the local community.
Yeah, it is, and it's about that small, just small interactions of kindness and compassion. They really do, it's been a theme continued throughout various of these talks and events of the more of the smaller things that we do really do add up to a very important bigger picture in terms of creating that space of well-being and kindness.
Definitely. Some of the individuals that have been to the cafe at first wasn't sure what to expect. They expected people in robes and maybe being very zen-like, sat there meditating, but they realised that we're just normal human beings trying to do our best in life. We have no expectations to make anybody Buddhist whatsoever. But they do realize that because they're in this safe space, their conversations change. And sometimes conversations can be quite negative or quite heavy. But as soon as they're here, there seems to be an influence transforming them into something light and content and happy.
Mm. Oh, that's wonderful. That's because it's important, I feel, when you do go into a space to use that you are left with that feeling that you are comfortable and you are able to talk socially with whoever you've gone to that space with. So that's really nice to hear. And I know you touched on your community there, so I'm going to ask if you do work with any organisations or charities that are close by and local that you would like to highlight that do really share that message of kindness.
Definitely. We work with most of the local charities in Holbeck. The area is quite poor, but there are lots of agencies that work here. And when we first came to Holbeck, we weren't sure who individuals were, what work was happening in the area. So we invited people through the doors, people like Slum Low and the Kindness Revolution, who held a music event here, which was fantastic. Nothing that we'd done before, so it's completely new to us. But everybody had an amazing time. We also work with the other charities, such as East Street Arts down the road, who are an arts charity. We've had local carers bringing their children in from East End Park, from the cafe there. There's lots of organisations come through the door. Sadly, I can't remember the name of all of them because there are so many, but we do work within the building with a counsellor, as in communication counsellor, and also Headspace, who are a mental health charity working with the NHS. So they support us quite a lot, and we them. And we offer events either on an evening or a weekend, and they make craft things such as bird feeders that are recycled, or they'll make beautiful artwork created by individuals around the area and they get displayed. And I'm also looking to work with the photography group that works at St. Matthew's Church, because they came to photograph a sand mandala piece of art made out of individual grains of sand in our hall. So we'd like to do an exhibition of those photographs as well. So lots of interactions, but always with a positive and compassionate approach.
And it's incredible. I know you said that there's too many to name, but I think what the important thing about this is that we really are getting a message across that there is so much of this out there, and this is about kind of sharing those names and sharing what those spaces are doing with these individuals, so that people are more aware of what's going on in the background of a space and not just necessarily what you see when you walk through a door.
Definitely. I became a member of Leeds Citizens very recently, who are a grassroots organisation trying to promote positive change within South Leeds. And I've spoken with building developers, individuals from various religious organisations, social organisations, holding Zoom meetings, getting councils to agree for work and apprenticeships in the area for local people, looking at also the infrastructure in the area, such as the Leeds Viaduct, trying to make that a viable option for people to walk from the city centre through to Elland Road or even to Jamyang. So we have lots of activities in the background, even though I'm usually stood here serving customers. I'm living underneath, trying to make connections with all of these amazing organisations to do something really positive for Leeds. Besides the work that we do here in Leeds, we also work with other charities around the country as well, such as planting trees for our Eco-Dharma projects. So we're looking to plant 1 million trees by July next year. And we'll also offer donations to feed the monks and nuns in Kopan Monastery in Nepal and India. So we're always making donations to other charities, not just requesting support for ourselves, because we are an interdependent organisation.
It's giving back what you get, isn't it? It's about
Definitely.
Kind of into that circle and system,
paying it forward.
Great. So obviously with the pandemic, everything has been a little bit crazy, I would say, for anyone in the hospitality industry, no matter what the space is. So I'd just like to ask you kind of, how do you see yourselves evolving? I know you've mentioned that you're looking to reopen soon. So how do you feel about that, and what are you looking forward to? And
I'm a little nervous, but I think many people are. And I think as long as we consider others and take practical steps to protect ourselves and others, again, acting with kindness and compassion, there'll be people that are afraid to come out, which is understandable. And there'll be those individuals that are comfortable visiting the centre or the cafe. And for those individuals, we need to let them know that the space is clean daily, that we follow our health and safety seriously, and that we will always try to do the best for whatever the situation is, which is changing daily. So hopefully, if the government advice doesn't change anytime soon, we may be able to open in October. We may be able to offer other services if requested, because we're quite a big space, so we do get approached by different organisations. So one of the things that we did do while the building was closed to the congregation as it is, was to offer the space out to another charity, and they produced food parcels and distributed them to the local people in the south of Leeds. But they were an amazing team. They worked with the youth, and there was thousands of packs of colouring books and skipping ropes and footballs and pumps. Cornflakes. I've never seen so many cornflakes in my life.
That's really great to hear that the space has still been able to be used for other purposes without you being able to kind of open as your usual business. So that's, it's just leaning into that small act of kindness, isn't it? It's if you can't do anything with the space, allowing someone else to use that space for something that is really important at this time is just, again, sharing and celebrating really what we are capable of when we really do connect with each other.
Definitely. We can achieve so much more if we open ourselves up to change and opportunities. I think that if we think of just about ourselves and our own situation, it can become very unbearable. It can become overwhelming. It can be very difficult and challenging. But if we open our mind and think about others, we start to notice things that we have in common and opportunities that we can help each other grow, support each other when we need it. And I think that society needs that at the moment.
Yeah, it does. A little bit of healing is needed, isn't it? I think.
Definitely. A good old change. What we've been doing before.
Oh, yeah. But I think everyone's ready for it. I think everyone's just ready for this change. No one is really that certain as to how it is going to change, but there's a need and there's a want for it.
Definitely. And if you don't try, you'll never know.
No, we won't. And what harm is it doing if we're all just that little bit kinder to each other?
Exactly. What's the worst that could happen?
Very little. So how do you think that we can create a long-lasting change in making Leeds a kind of space to live?
I have given this a lot of thought during the lockdown period. Because I was furloughed as a cafe manager, I didn't think I was going to be of much use. But I've actually joined in with social groups like ecology groups, broadened my awareness of the racial tensions that exist within the world, also how different societies cope under different circumstances. So I've been reading a lot of information online, trying to educate myself really of what I can do locally to make a big impact. So I found that I've been signing a lot more online petitions, such as LGBT activity in Poland, or to help support the Black Lives Matter campaign, to support social equality within the UK. I also interact with other organisations around the world now because of Zoom, which is an amazing tool. Nobody ever wanted to use it, but now everybody can't not use it.
It's a normal part of life now.
Yeah, so my social world has opened up. I speak to people regularly: Australia, Spain, Germany, France, America, Singapore, Canada, and I'm able to support them with my skill sets. They're able to offer me some advice and guidance if I want to think of new ideas for the centre, or connecting with other groups that are in the UK, like the Ecology and the Eco Dharma that we've initiated here. And I think that doing little things makes a massive change. You don't necessarily see the result straight away,
Mm.
but just like a field, if you start planting the seeds and you keep watering them, eventually you'll end up with a field of amazing trees, flowers, and whatever else is needed because you've put the effort in. So I think that the long lasting change is that people have had time to reflect on what's important to them, and they're looking for opportunities to get involved and do something good and make life meaningful, which we tend not to think about when we're in our day-to-day stressed environment. So when I joined Jamyang Leeds and I started working here, I wanted to put all my efforts into making something positive, useful, and meaningful to my life. So when I pop my clogs, I can look back and say, I did that. I made a difference.
Again, yeah, it's the running theme. I feel is, you know, it might not feel what you're doing is making a huge difference, but like you say, petitions, educating yourself, I feel is the real important thing to take from this situation. Is there's a lot of misinformation out there, so really take the time to learn and to understand what is going on around you, so that you can make that informed decision and act upon it in order to create that change that you want to create.
Definitely. And you'll get feedback from individuals as well when you start doing positive actions. The amount of people that have come into the cafe and said, we've seen this event happening, or we've heard that you've been involved with this. We had no idea. It's amazing. It's so inspiring. Somebody texted me today with a quote saying, you guys in Leeds are awesome. You're doing so much amazing work. Try not to be so humble about it. Uh, just reflect in the happiness that you're creating for individuals. And even though sometimes I'm serving teas and coffees and food here, and I'm stressing trying to get everything ready, but when I look out and I see people happy and content, there's nothing else that compares. It's amazing.
It is an incredible feeling. I think people who have worked in customer service in that way, there's a real sense of, again, that word that keeps coming up is connection that you can create with strangers.
Definitely.
And I do feel like there's a loss of that amongst people with this new age of technology and the rise in anxiety disorders and things like that. We are connecting, but we're not connecting at the same time. And I do think that customer service really still represents that. And I think it's, you know, it's trying to remain strong throughout this pandemic. It's still really trying to hold on to that customer relationship, because it is really important, and it's what brings people back again and again. You know, we can all visit somewhere once and think, oh, that was all right food, that was an all right time, but if you go somewhere where you really feel like you've been looked after and you've been thought of, and it's a space where you can just feel comfortable, you will return time and time again. And the staff are the most important part of that in any organisation that works in this industry.
Definitely. We're literally in the middle at the front of the building. So you come through the cafe, whether you're using a touchstone space or whether you're visiting for the volunteers or whether you're going to a class or using the little charity shop here. And the amount of people that interact that would never normally meet on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
When can you walk into a cafe and meet a Buddhist monk? Or when can you walk into a cafe and meet somebody from a mental health team that just happens to be passing through? When can you walk through and meet the councillors from Leeds City Council that's having a cup of tea? You know, we have so many amazing people enter in this space, and we are literally the heart. And while we've been closed, the feedback has been, please, please reopen, because we miss that connection with other human beings and that having the opportunity to connect and
Yeah.
share. Yeah.
And I think it's been seen quite a lot as well in spaces that haven't, like yourself, who maybe haven't been able to quite open yet. There is that call for that loyal customer base of just, I just want to go back to my favourite space and just exist there again for a little bit, because it just feels, it's really homing.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, there's some spaces I've been to in Leeds that's been quite cold, or you just pass through, nobody engages with you, and it's you're there for a task and out you get. Whereas here, it's completely opposite. Sit, stay, chat, relax, soak up the environment, have some healthy options of food, chat with people, learn something new, or sit and be silent and just reflect. You've got a meditation space right next door to the cafe. No one else has got that.
Yeah.
And you can just sit and be yourself, no judgments, no expectations, just be yourself.
Which is a great message to send, isn't it? Just be yourself at the end of the day.
Definitely.
Yeah. Um, so before we obviously just keep getting carried away with the love and kindness of everything, is there any acts of kindness you'd like to introduce to the city but have been unable to at this point?
Hmm. I think I'm always trying to look for ways to be kind, um, trying to inspire people by holding different events at the centre and giving people the opportunity to get involved. So I'm from quite a poor background back in Grimsby, and opportunities were very rare and limited to do something positive, quite a lot of negativity. But since coming to Leeds, and especially to Jamyang here and the cafe, I want to make sure that other people have an opportunity to do something good. So I'd like to maybe have craft sessions in the cafe where people can express themselves, and then we can exhibit their work in the cafe, whether it's younger people or older people. Maybe have evenings where older people can come and have a meal and relax in a really positive, different environment. Um, Maybe invite different people to Leeds from further afield so that people have an opportunity to look outside of their usual realm.
Mhm.
Um, and also, I think just encourage people really to do something positive. So if we have an event, we'll ask them to volunteer. They don't need to know anything about what's happening, but just giving people opportunities. So we have a lady here that is a local who came through the door, wanted to volunteer for the day, and she's been with us for a year and a half. And she's worked in a cafe, she's been on reception, and she's not Buddhist. She works at another church as well in Meanwood. And you can see how she's grown as an individual, how she's opened up and become more settled and calm. And it's just a beautiful thing. So that's what I'd like to be able to do, engage with local people more, um, to give them opportunities and to be able to grow, to fulfill their potential, really.
And that's a lovely thing to want to do, to grow like that, and to just add value in whatever way you can to other
Definitely.
people's lives and to your own life. Like you say, by watching someone grow in that sense, it does add value to your own life.
Definitely. Somebody saw how this lady was doing, and they turned around and said, "That's because of you, Jay." And I just didn't think that it was, because ex I wasn't looking to do it. It just naturally happened. But I think that's because I've opened this place with the mind set on kindness and compassion.
Lovely. So I'm just gonna move on to our last question today, which is, what would you like to personally see in the future of Leeds? And it's not necessarily in spaces, in places, but what would you just like to see in this city as we move forward with kindness and compassion?
I would like to see less high-rise glass and steel buildings, and I would like to see more people-focused events
Yeah.
being offered by Leeds City Council and other authorities in the city, and developing its culture so that people can express, feel excited about living in Leeds. I think Leeds has had a history of money and development, and here in Holbeck started the Industrial Revolution. So let's see if we can start the compassionate revolution in Leeds.
Yes.
Definitely. That would be a massive aspiration. And that can be creative, it can be socially inclusive, it could address people's spiritual needs, whatever they need to be happy in life, not just based on finances.
And that's part of it. It's understanding that we all have such completely different sets of needs, and no one is any less for having those needs, but everyone, their own personal thing, it needs to be met. Everyone has those needs that need to be met, and there is enough of us to be able to offer it. Not everyone has to offer everything to everyone, but everyone has something to offer someone.
Yes. I look at Hull. Hull is one of the most deprived areas in the UK, but its people, when they come together, do amazing things, and they leave strong impact within their communities, such as the City of Culture, and then all of the arts and the creativity that exists in Hull. And I go there quite a lot with some photography work that I do, but I'd love to see that in Leeds. It's not as visible. And I think that if people are going to change after lockdown, then workplaces are going to be less busy in the city centre. So make the time that you have really count by doing something that really matters.
Which is actually going to lead me on to my next little bit of the talk, which today is going to be this event will be aired on Suicide Prevention Day. So if you'd like to add anything to the mental health conversation, because it is a very large conversation, and again, I just think it's important for us to talk at every level about it, so that there is no barrier, and that we are able to feel safe when talking about these issues, because the issues are only the numbers and the figures are only getting higher, especially with the situation that the pandemic has caused. So if you'd like to add anything, please do.
Yes, certainly. I've known quite a few people take their own lives, and a lot of them were totally unexpected. And the one thing from my experience is that there was never, ever any conversation about how they felt, that life was difficult, that they were having issues. So I think that as a man in particular, it's difficult to express yourself because we're taught by society not to, and to man up, which is rubbish. That we should and we need to start talking to each other, either at bus stops, on the bus, in cafes, not necessarily having in-depth conversations, but simply by asking how you are, but also understanding that you're allowed to be honest. And
Yes,
people will listen if they're given the opportunity. So if any of my friends or any of the people that see this Sorry.
It's honestly fun. It's a difficult. I'd like to thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
of your story, and it's, you know, it's a part of it. Like, you are allowed to feel that emotion that you're feeling right now, because it's difficult, you know, and
It is. It's very difficult. If also just simply asking the question as well to your partners or your family members, how are you, and listening to what they say. And if they are struggling and you're not quite sure what to say, then ask a friend what they would do in that situation. And sometimes asking the question, do you wish to kill yourself, is a completely valid question.
it is.
And it can prevent someone from taking their own life. So here at the cafe, if you ever struggle and you want to have a chat, come and speak to me at the cafe. I have people around me that can help, and there are professionals here as well. So if anybody does struggle, come to the Happy Yak, because we'll listen to you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jay. Thank you for sharing that bit of information, because it's just, I think, yeah, it's so important for us to just have simple talks with each other and understand that the negative side of our emotions are human and they are normal, and we are so allowed to talk about them.
Absolutely. We have this stiff upper lip and let's put the kettle on and have a cup of tea and we'll just ignore it all. No, that was back then. Things
Yeah.
are different now.
Not anymore. Let's talk
Definitely.
loud and proud about it as well, you know.
Yeah, there's no shame in struggling. We all struggle at every level at some time or other in our lives.
Yeah.
But the difference between those that survive and those that don't is those that survive talk about it.
Yeah.
So let's talk.
Yeah, there will be resources available at the end of this video. If anyone does feel like they need to reach out to someone, please do. I would just again like to say thank you to Happy Yak Cafe and Jay for joining me for this event and having a really nice talk about the space that you guys have.
No, thank you so much, and wishing everybody every happiness for the future, whatever it might bring. So lots of love, everybody.
Perfect.
Come
Thank
and see
you.
us.
Thank you. Hi guys, welcome to Finding Kindness in Places and Spaces. Today we are going to be talking about spaces in Leeds and the kindness and compassion that they use within their space and they create. Today I am joined by Bex from Punk Vegan, who is going to tell us a little bit about herself and her organisation, and then we'll chat some more. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, Bex.
Hi, my name's Bex. I'm one of the owners of Punk Vegan in Hyde Park. We're a vegan takeaway in like the student area, kind of by Hyde Park Picture House. We try and make everything fresh and affordable, and I don't know, we just we're like a community business. We're in a hub, and we kind of want to be part of the hub of Hyde Park. So that is kind of who we are, I think, in a nutshell.
As well, it's a really nice open space. I know obviously with COVID you've not been able to have a lot of people in the space, but being there before the pandemic, I can vouch for the fact that it is a really nice open little space, and I really love your outdoor area as well. It's just such a nice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're working more on the outdoor because obviously it's because of COVID, and it has been quite hard not being able to have the same communication with customers. Especially during the period where people couldn't really come click and collect and things as well. It was always hard when you've got regulars, but I think now that it's kind of warming up and people are coming back, it's nice to kind of see everyone's faces again and try and create safe spaces again for people to kind of reconnect with like us in the space.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that's what I'm going to move on to now. I'm going to ask you, so what does kindness mean to your space, and why is it important to you?
It's just, I think it's important in any space, especially when you think of like independents in coffee shops. The best ones are ones where you go and they kind of feel like home. It's like a community. You can go and you can chat to whoever's working. Maybe the boss is there. Maybe it's someone making you a coffee, and you can kind of feel like home. You know, you can go and you can just have a coffee. You can go and you can just read a book. And I think that's kind of what you want the space to be like when you initially come in. And then it goes on to obviously how the staff are and we are. We kind of want it to be like a family, because that's how everyone kind of creates happiness and like content. When us two can feel like the people who are coming in, we can put everything into it and kind of make them feel comfortable. And I'm sure you know, being in hospitality, if you really enjoy hospitality, that's what you love about it. You love the fact that you meet all these strangers and they can leave feeling like they've had a nice time and they're kind of like rejuvenated, refreshed from like whatever they came in for.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. It's that, like you say, it's that connection with the people that come in, and if you've got the space to create that for people, then it's a place to make memories, I think, is the way I'd look at it, like that. And whether they're, you know, just breakfast or dinner memories, but they're the kind of spaces that you do go, oh, that was a really nice morning, or that was a really nice afternoon, and I'd really like to go back there to experience that again. Yeah, no, that's really, really nice. So, touching on that, do you guys work with any other traders or organisations in Leeds that you're aware of that kind of spread that message of kindness? Obviously, you're a vegan restaurant, so therefore, you know, you're not really kind of partaking in any form of consumerism in the meat market, which I think is really kind, being a vegan myself. But yeah, if you'd like to just talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I was thinking about it today with the kindness thing, and I guess when you follow like the vegan mindset and the whole thing, your foundation is on kindness and compassion anyway, and it kind of, you try your best, we all make mistakes, but to flood into like every side of life. So the people we work with, for example, as much as possible, it's like other small businesses. So a lot of the people who we get things like our jackfruit, it's a family guy, you know, he comes with his kids, he drops off some jackfruit, it's his small business. Our cakes, someone else small business. So as much as possible, it's trying to like keep it local, trying to keep with people who like, they have the passion as well, and you can kind of like bring it all together to create something greater. And it's just helping each other out. You know, you want to be able to support each other. Like when you go to another vegan business or someone else comes to you and they've got their own thing, but they just want to try your food, and just, there's been a lot of beautiful support over the pandemic of people just wanting to kind of make sure that everyone's still all right, no matter how much money they do or don't have, which has been really nice. And I think because in that area, we've got like a whole mix of people. We have a lot of homeless people. And so we do put a lot of time into kind of like being friends and helping them where we can. So we don't technically have any charities we work with right now. But that's something we actively do just because we live in the area and we can do it. So it's just having the capability to be able to like give a coffee or give some chips and not worry about those minor details. Or if someone doesn't have much money, being able to just do what you can to give someone like any sort of experience. We are doing something soon. We're doing a community project in the next few weeks, hopefully.
Can you share any details, or is it a little bit under wraps? We can plug you a little bit in a couple more weeks to try and share.
Yeah, no, I can share it because we've only just kind of started moving forward with it. We're working with a local artist. He's done like 2 murals so far, I think. One of them is one of the ones from Hyde Park, you know, when they did that competition. There's about 4 or 5 big murals, and he did another one for school. So we're going to go with hopefully some local kids. And on if you've seen the front of our shop, we've got this big grey wall. That's like a big canvas. So because there's a lot of families in Hyde Park, but they get forgotten about, we're trying to come up with like, I think sustainability is going to be our theme. And it's more kids and families who want to get involved and create something that then he can come and plan, and then they can come create together. So then that whole hopefully side, we haven't worked out if we're going to do a few different ones and merge it, or it's going to be one big project. But that's what we're working on over hopefully the next few weeks. We're not sure how long it'll take, but that's to come. Is the next thing we're trying to do.
Great, that's such an amazing idea as well, because like you say, Hyde Park, just because it's a relatively big student area doesn't mean that families still don't exist in that community. So it's really nice to see that they're still being thought of, and that you guys, you know, and to developing your community around you, not just through the students that come and go, but also through the people that like live there and have lived there for a long time and plan to stay there while their children grow up. And, you know, that's a really nice thought, that there's something that they can create that will be there, that will stand the test of time, and they can come back and bring friends to the city and be like, look at what we did when we were younger. That's so amazing. That's really
cool. I'm looking forward to that, because obviously, you know, we've got our son who's here all the time.
Yeah.
And when we do have families, it's really nice. So being able to have more of that, because I do get forgotten about a bit, the kids in Hyde Park. So you want it to be able to be open for everyone, because I think everyone will enjoy some beautiful creation, no matter who's done it. So knowing that, I think, I don't know if you did, but I think a lot of us, when you're lucky enough to do like a little project and you do like one brick in a huge wall, even growing up, you have those little memories of being able to just to do something bigger that is still going to be there.
It reminds you of your neighbourhood, I think. You know, there's so many of us now don't necessarily stay in the homes we were raised in. People move around quite a lot, and I think to be able to take those memories from the community and still remember that that was part of your upbringing and that is a part of your culture as well, and to take that on to wherever you're going to be is just such a lovely idea, and that people can come back to it again and again.
Yeah, no, it's exciting.
How do you see your space evolving through this pandemic and current global social movements? You know, obviously climate change and the climate change movement, and your business model is kind of centered around is centered around trying to reduce those emissions. So how do you see space evolving?
I'm not sure. I think it's already evolving because of the pandemic and stuff, and the way vegan businesses are growing. I think in the last year especially, us and a lot of other businesses are jumping on that bandwagon when we look to get like disposable cups and like boxes and things. It's a lot easier now to get biodegradable and stuff, which is even better than recyclable, and doing things that way. And more things are coming in place to make things a bit more eco-friendly. Same with making things safer. And the next generation, I think, is where we're really going to see it, because they're the ones who are learning this, who are like aware of the changes coming in. And I think it's something when you have a vegan business, I think you're just aware of anyway, because it's kind of one big thing. Yeah. So any sort of movement or anything going on socially, you kind of want to go with it and you want to be able to help in some way. So I'm not 100% sure where we'll go, but I think it's part of hospitality. You're always adapting anyway. Yeah. So I think we'll just keep adapting to whatever we can do, depending on our financial means. And even now, every few weeks, we see a big change in what we can do, and what we can afford. And most of the time, we try to do as little impact and reuse as much as possible anyway. So we just have to see. There's a lot of things that I'd like to be able to do, but we're not quite there yet.
Well, this is it. I think for anyone who has not worked in hospitality before and doesn't really understand the industry, it is always evolving, but at this moment in time, it is evolving so quickly from one day to the next, and kind of how things are organised and structured. And you know, it can be hard to not get chaotic in that kind of situation, but you guys seem to be doing really, really well. And you know, you're always I'm always seeing people posting stuff on Instagram, and you've always been quite busy, so it's just nice to see that places have made it through and they've done it well.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see the schemes that have kind of come in place to help the people who couldn't stay open, for example, through the pandemic, because we were lucky because we were in a student area, so we're not in the centre of the city, and we could just be takeaway. Obviously, if you were in the city and you rely on alcohol and all these things, it's a lot harder to safely, you can't just do takeaway. And seeing those places get through it and be able to come back with a big bang is amazing. Yeah, it's been crazy, the amount of little changes, especially when it all started, and every day it was trying to check what's changed for tomorrow. And then halfway through the day, it could be a whole new regulation. And you're like, okay, no, quick, we've got to do this, do that. Okay, let's do this in case, because we think that's going to happen tomorrow. So it's been a bit like that. You're kind of not sure where you stand, so you just want to do as best as possible, keep checking on the regulations and try and read between the lines and work out what you can do best, because they haven't given like that specific things. So I think every business is just trying their best to keep everything as like safe and as possible for everyone.
I think you guys have done really well.
Thank you. We've tried. We've had a lot of up and downs still, and tribulations and trials. Especially now it's summer, so it's quiet. But we were lucky that we could just be open during the pandemic at least.
Yeah, I'm so glad you were. I'm really glad you were.
Thank you. I think it gives a bit of normality, having food. I think if people could, not even necessarily from us, but being able to get takeaways, I think, when everything else was shut, was one of the few things people kind of had, except for going to the supermarket once or twice a week, when everything else, like normality, had gone. Yeah. And I think food brings people together, and it does change your mood and all this stuff. So.
And your food is really tasty. I definitely vouch for that, guys. The food is really So before I just keep fangirling about vegan food.
Mate, it's great. Vegan food is beautiful. I'm a bit biased though. But.
So how do you guys think we can create that change in making Leeds a kind space to live overall? Just personal opinion. This is just kind of what people would like to see as kindness within their city, and how we could create that change.
I think we're quite lucky in Leeds when it comes to this kind of thing, because one of the reasons I love Leeds is it's one of the few cities I've been in where I can actively see, from first moving here, people trying to do that. There's always been organisations and people trying to create safe spaces, create places for people to talk, create events, create workshops that people can come in and feel safe, that's not too intimidating. So I think it's moving forward with that, because Leeds is a city that, maybe it's because it's quite creative, and with creativity comes compassion. You have this mindset where you think outside the box and you see things in like a whole other thing, that you're more likely to even if you don't understand someone, you want to kind of bring them in and accept them and love them. Yeah. And Leeds is a place that I think is already doing that, and I hope we'll keep doing that in other cities. We'll hopefully follow a little bit more. You know what I mean? I hope that you've seen it too. I think that's why I wanted to stay in Leeds, because it's got so much going on. It's a small city. It's beautifully multicultural. So you've got everyone, all ages, all nationalities.
Leeds has its own culture.
Exactly, it's got its own culture, and it's it's a beautiful culture, and it's really accepting. I think you can go, no matter who you are or what you do, you can kind of find your people, and you can find a place that feels safe. There's probably places that aren't, and people who don't, but from my experience, I think it's just one of the great things about the city.
I agree. I'm not from Leeds either. I kind of moved over here two years ago now, and it is home to me. Leeds is home, and I feel like it's home. When I come into the train station, it says Leeds, and it's I've always been a southern girl, but being up north, it just does feel like home. So I really agree with you on that one, which is amazing, because this is what this festival is trying to do, and that's what we're trying to do, is share and connect everyone who is already doing this in Leeds, and raising that voice, so that when it comes to next year, everyone already knows, and people are coming up from the bottom trying to do what we've already been doing. But
that's the thing, it's the fact that you're here and creating this beautiful thing, and not all cities, and there's not always people around doing that, and the fact that this is available for people, it's amazing, and we're very lucky to be able to have you and all this stuff kind of going on to bring everyone together. And the amount of awareness I see between mental health around Leeds and all these things is amazing, that it pops up so much that people do feel safe. Or places like Wharf Chambers, which I hope they get through all this, because they have definitely been an amazing space, so much, and they're a big safe space that pops up, because they are accepting, anyone can go in there and have a good time, and they won't accept anyone to not just try being a good person. And even then they'll be come back when
Yeah.
calm down. But like, you know, I think we're really lucky to have spaces like that in Leeds, where anyone could go and just feel like they've got a family. Like even if they don't know anyone, they can go in and someone will come talk to them. Or if they don't want to talk to anyone, we'll just like let them be. And having a space to just be as well is really important, I think.
Yeah, I agree there. Just having a space to be, whether it's talking or sitting or reading or whatever, it's just that space to just be is very important. And I think Leeds has got some really great social spaces where you can do that. Like we were saying before, where you can just sit with a book and a coffee and you can kind of get lost at the world going by. And yeah, I agree. It's amazing. What would you like to see personally in the future of spaces? If there was unlimited possibilities, what would you like to see in the spaces that we use all the time?
So what I'd like to see is more spaces for people to like express themselves. Like there is a lot of them already in Leeds, but like if I could have anything right now, it would be something like the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, but for like creative things, workshops, you know, quieter, more like healing spaces where it's a similar thing, but you can come and you can learn to macrame, for example, or you can just come in and you can sit together and colour in a colouring book. You know, finding more spaces for things like that, like bringing people together, but to kind of like, you know, get out their heads in different ways. Like really basic, like playing drums. And I know we've got a bit of that going on, and I don't always get a chance to like go to them. Like, I kind of wish there was more night ones. Yeah. Sometimes you want to go out with your friends on the night, but you don't want to go drink.
Yeah.
I wish there were more like late night activity sections where it wasn't about drinking, but you'd go do some workshop, or just some like sober dancing, or a late night coffee shop that did like decaf or something.
No, I'm about that life, really.
But I think it's just like that. It's just places for people to cultivate things. That's maybe a bit less like intimidating, because we have all these great spaces, but sometimes it is very centered around, even though it's got all this stuff going on, like alcohol and like lots of people. And even for me, that's like a bit much sometimes. And I think that's something that when people have about the pandemic, that's helped people reflect, which you want to go out and you want to connect again with people rather than just forget. And so it's like it's a great opportunity for us to kind of try create these spaces to do these new things and like carry on these habits that we were trying to create when things were really hard, you know, and share them with each other.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. There was a real sense of togetherness at the beginning of this, and I feel it was really strong throughout most of it, but then as life has started to kind of trickle back to normal and people are dealing with the regular stresses again, that connection seems to have been lost a little. I think the desire for it is still there, the want and the need for it is still there, but the capability, because of the way we've lived for so long, you know, and this kind of this situation has brought us to a real halt where we've all had to kind of go, oh wow, right, how have we done this for so long and not broke up until this point? So I think that the need and the necessity for it and the want for it is still there, and I think it's just about us all agreeing that's what we all want and that's what we all need, and kind of forcing ourselves to create that space within our communities.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one hard thing it is with the pandemic now, when it comes to we've been told to keep space from each other in certain retrospects. So creating places, like you say, to bring everyone together in those safe things where it's affordable or free, because sometimes that's the big thing. Yoga was something that got me through the pandemic, even though I was working, and it helped me give up some like bad habits I had and things. But now life's come back to normality. I'm struggling with that, and I'd love to be able to do that with people. But it's things like that aren't always affordable or accessible, and you want to be able to do it with someone, but you also can't afford £10, £15 for a lesson. Yeah. So having more things like schemes to kind of get people just socialising again in like different kinds of spaces, I think is something that'd be great. if, that would be the next thing that I could bring, or we could bring to the city for everyone.
Well, that's leading me on to my last question, which is, what acts of kindness, or is there anything that you've tried to create or would love to bring to the city but have been restricted by the pandemic or by financial situations or legislation or anything like that?
I think it's a hard one because there's loads of stuff I want to be able to bring and change. There's things that we'd love to do here. I want to be able to get involved in more like charity things or give back and have those kind of schemes going on. And I'm hoping we can do that if and when things settle again in the shop, because a lot of things have had to like take a step back while we kind of just work out what's happening next to the pandemic, what's happening next year. So I'm hoping when things settle, we can do those things again. We can kind of create revenue for other people. We can bring people together more in this space. And as for the rest of the city, I just hope, I'm sure lots of people are trying to do that too. There's some great things of people trying to raise money for each other, which is beautiful, and each other's organisations when possible. So I'm hoping we can do that as well soon. But we're not quite there yet. I'm hoping that's the next step.
I'd really just like to say thank you for chatting with me today. You've been a really lovely guest.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
I hope everyone who watches this comes and eats food at Punk Vegan afterwards. If you don't, I'll be watching. But yeah, Bex, thank you so much for coming to talk to us at Kinder Spaces today, and just good luck with everything.
Well, thank you. You too. Enjoy the rest of the festival and talks, and I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Thanks, Bex. Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to another talk of Finding Kindness in Places and Spaces in Leeds, a part of our ongoing week of Leeds Festival of Kindness, Compassion and Wellbeing. I am joined today by Nee from Evoke Studios, who is going to introduce himself and just talk to us a little bit about the space that he works at.
Oh, hi, I'm Nee. I'm one of the members of the Evoke Studios team, and we're basically just a group of freelancers who have opened up a studio that's open for services such as recording, mixing, mastering, rehearsal studio, and also photography as well, and live sessions, like music live sessions as well. So we're a group of producers, songwriters, music tutors, and performers. And we've basically created this space in Meanwood in Leeds that is available to hire for people to make their music and be in a space that's creative and open and fun, and you can find your own voice in. And it's just opened. We've just really kind of had it open and functioning the last couple of months. But we've had some good progress so far.
That's great. It's great to hear that you've been able to kind of open a space like that at a time like this, that you're able to get together and to work really. I'd just like to ask you kind of, how do you work towards kindness and compassion in your space, and why is it important to you?
Well, as creators and creative people, I think especially making music is quite a sensitive and revealing thing for a lot of people. And I think we all have enough experience to know that it's important to make people feel comfortable. As a performer, as a singer, even, or as an instrumentalist, a lot of the times, if you're the producer or the engineer, it's your job to kind of be not so much a mentor, but someone who can guide them to get all the ideas out and make sure that they make the best work they can make. I think especially like songwriters almost double up as like therapists in a way, because artists a singer there to just say exactly what they want to express, and then the songwriter's there to put that into lyrics and music. And you can only get there if you have real, deep, honest conversation.
Yeah. And trust as well.
Yeah, totally. We try and we started to just work closely with people that. So we're slowly kind of branching out and just because we know so many people in Leeds that are musicians, and people that we are already close with in a way, and it's already starting to kind of breed that sort of homely vibe in there. And I feel like we're all kind of comfortable enough to feel like we can bring everyone into our home, so to speak. And yeah, so I think it's taken some time in terms of making that effort to make it a friendly and kind space. I think that time has been just our years of experience of making music, and just us coming together is us putting that common understanding together.
And with anyone who's not really in the behind the scenes of the. Sorry, I don't even know what I was trying to say there. I'll get that a little bit edited off, but I think I was trying to touch on just how toxic the music industry can be.
Yeah.
Having that space that you've created where there is that real understanding that it's about sharing what is important when someone's trying to get a song across or lyrics across or express themselves creatively. There's a real need for it, I think.
Yeah, totally. It's very easy to get into a space that is intimidating and impersonal. So we try to make that our space as personal as possible. We have loads of plants around and sofas and coffee tables, and we just try and make it a homely vibe because like you said, it's very easy to find yourself in an environment that is toxic, that breeds a sort of competitive mentality, and I think we just try to come from a place of simplicity, making everything as simple as possible, so that you can make the best and most honest work you can make.
So I'm touching on that. Do you work with any other organisations or charities, or are you looking to kind of grow that sense of community that you've got within your space at the moment to promote kindness?
Yeah, 100%. Well, we've reached out and we try and stay closely tied to the people at Music Leeds. They're an organisation that kind of help push the Leeds scene and help bring together resources and channels for people to put their music out there and for people to grow in the city. So we try to stay. We have ties to them, and they're an organisation that we'd feel honoured to be connected to because they are so well embedded in the scene in a very natural way. They put on. I went to a workshop, I think at the beginning of this year, that they put on, and they just had one-to-one conversations with people about their music and how they want to progress. So they've always been people that have been open to having open conversations and being open and just kind to have conversations with people and not put a wall up. It's nice to see people that are in the industry willing to have conversations with people at any level. So they're an organization that definitely, I feel they promote a lot of kindness and compassion. And yeah, we try and stay closely tied to them.
The support like that is needed, that push to kind of know that people who will work with anyone at all different levels and express that, you know, what do you want out of this and how do you want to progress, and taking the time to have that real individualistic approach to it so that someone can really benefit from the information that they're getting. It's important to make those human connections with each other in every aspect of healing, and not just creativity, but, you know, this has kind of been a real big theme for this of organisations just taking the time to just listen that little bit more to the individuals that are wanting to take part in whatever aspect of business or organisation that it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You know, I think there's been a lot of sectors that have really felt this the pandemic situation, but musicians and creatives and those that freelance within this industry really have felt it, and, you know, it feels like there's still a lot of uncertainty about when it's going to return. So I just want to know from the present experience, how do you feel like these creative spaces will evolve in the wake of all of this?
Yeah, well, obviously it has been tough for musicians, especially because music was kind of the first thing to go, and it's probably going to be the last thing to really come back full force in terms of live music. In terms of our space and how the spaces are going to be going forward, we've obviously been following all guidelines of sanitation and social distancing of the few people we've had in the studio. And the studio is a space that's shared with other freelancers and creatives in the same building. So it's been just a group understanding and having that willingness to communicate and say, this is what we need to do to follow government rules and guidelines and be as stringent as we can, but keeping it welcoming. So it's been a fine balance. It's been a fine line to walk, but it's worked. And we would have liked to have had some kind of launch or like a party or some kind of gathering, but that couldn't happen. And hopefully it will happen sometime, possibly spring next year. We don't know. But I mean, going forward, I think we talked a bit about gigs and stuff and how like open air or like garden parties stuff is going on. So I think that's a good way to get things sort of slowly back to normal, to drip feed it back to us. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think studios, recording studios, rehearsal studios can kind of run okay. It's just the music venues that are really suffering, especially.
You know, I was a big supporter of live music, and I've worked in several venues, you know, coming up in my career, and a lot of my family work in the industry as well, and I can really see the devastation of the effects that this has caused that's kind of rippled through those communities. But I think what is really positive is that there's such a want for it. There's such a want for it to come back, and that, you know, gigs are such a big part of our culture. Live music is a huge part of this country's culture, so I feel like it's gonna take a while, but, you know, it's definitely gonna want to be there again as soon as we can do.
Yeah, so I think loads of people just want it to come back. You know, a lot of us do miss it. Yeah.
It's just that energy you get, you know, whether you're listening to someone you know or you're listening to someone you don't know, and you're just in a crowd, it creates something that it can't be recreated, I feel, in any other way.
Yeah, totally. Just the being around that many people, it's kind of like you get this hive mind sort of feeling. Everyone's got one focus, which is just to enjoy the music. So yeah, it's weird not having access to that energy at the moment. Weird, yeah.
So, are there any acts of kindness that Evoke Studios or yourself would like to introduce? But I've just been unable to, unfortunately, due to the situation we're all in.
Yeah, we would have loved to have had like sort of workshop things going on at the studio. So getting groups of people together to take a tour of the studio and go through, have sessions, with a production session or mixing session or a songwriting workshop. we would have loved to have had some kind of introductory sessions like that at the space, which unfortunately we couldn't do on a large scale. But we've tried to do that on a minimal scale with like social distancing and everything.
So what would you like to see in the future of just Leeds spaces in general? You know, moving forward with this, I feel like we've all kind of lived in this kind of tunnel vision way of life for so long, and we've all had this kind of time to think about what would we like to see and what do we want from these spaces that we're in every day. So is there anything that you would like to see in the future?
Yeah, I would like to see more of that accessibility for wider spectrum of artists in terms of genre, in terms of gender and race, and seeing a lot more exposure of just people that are doing things that may not be. I don't know. I see a lot of like I guess the same kind of thing being championed in the city sometimes, and I think that it's great to champion and welcome people that are doing all different genres, hip hop, and like more like inclusive things in terms of having more like female bands and seeing people of different races playing in the scene. And I think it comes down to just accessibility. What people, a hub that people can go to that they know is accessible and they know they feel welcome. Yeah. So yeah, I guess just a wider spectrum of what's actually in the city. I think seeing that at the forefront would be really cool.
That's great, Spencer. I'd really like to say thanks to you for joining us today and just giving us a real nice just breakdown of everything that you guys do and how you're trying to kind of create creativity and continue with those kind of passions and joyfulness that we all get from music and live entertainment. And
thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me on the platform. Sounds like you guys are doing a really good job of elevating the idea of kindness in the city. So yeah, thank you so much for having us. Having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you.